What's up, guys? We got another Malicious compliance. Let's get in the stories and I'll see you in a bit. Want me to leave the cocktails to the experts? Sounds good. So a few years back, I worked in a pub. I hated the place and the people within. Management who just didn't give a crap about their staff. Bar staff who didn't understand the concept of teamwork, etc. So on a Friday night, we offered 2-for-1 cocktails, which were generally quite popular. Very middle class area, lots of yummy mummy types on their one night off from the kids. Which is fine, you do you, just don't be an entitled prick about it. This pub had a system on a Friday. The rest of us lowly bar staff would do the usual. Pour pints, vodka Red Bulls, definitely a large glass of wine, while 2 specially trained members of staff would stick to the cocktail bar. Honestly, not the worst system in theory. In practice, however, so on Friday nights, it's a busy one. So we're going full throttle until I walk past the cocktail prep area and notice the tickets are piling up and the cocktail girls are nowhere to be seen. Taking some initiative, I get started on making some drinks. Here I should mention, I've worked bar jobs the majority of my adulthood. I know how to make cocktails, especially the basic ones available at this bar. And even if it wasn't essentially second nature to me at this point, the instructions for each drink are quite literally taped to the back of the prep station. Essentially, I know what I'm doing. I'm about halfway done with the tickets when my manager appears and reprimands me for making cocktails when I'm not trained. Reminds me that I should leave it to the experts and get back to the, at this point very quiet, rest of the bar. I tried pointing out that I have no idea where these experts have vanished to. They've been gone for about 20 minutes at this point, and that I've had more extensive training in previous jobs, but he won't hear me. Yells that I've been told before, and that under no circumstances am I to prepare or assist with cocktails in any way other than delivering tickets, and that these things should be left to the experts. So I decide that sure, you want your experts on it? I'll leave them to it. As the night goes on, I take orders and find myself to be not very busy. I take some cocktail orders, point the tickets, take them over and add them onto the ever-growing stack, and go back to just standing around. There are about 5 of us regular old bar staff at this point, just standing around, since everything that needs to be done has been done. And other than a few elderly regulars, everyone wants cocktails. However, the 2 girls are somewhat overwhelmed at this point, and the manager is helping them out. Customers are coming up to complain, requesting refunds and to cancel their order, which requires a manager to do. So the manager, more than a little flustered at this point, comes over and sees us all standing around and demands we do something. We gladly point out that everything has been restocked, glasses collected, garnish prepped, everything cleaned to within an inch of its life. Customers are being seen to when they appear, and there's nothing else any of us lowly lot can do without his permission or assistance. So he makes a request that anyone in his position would make. Okay, go help out the cocktails, they're overwhelmed. The others hop to it, while I stay where I am. He isn't impressed and verbalizes as much, until I remind him, under no circumstances am I to assist cocktails in any way, that I'd happily bring tickets over for them, but as he kindly pointed out earlier, I'd been told previously, and I wasn't gonna go against his orders again, now was I? He was pissed, but couldn't actually find a valid argument and just stormed off. Throughout the night, I watched as he and the expert struggled to keep up. I dealt with customers complaining that their drinks were taking 30+ minutes to arrive, and kindly explained that, unfortunately, I wasn't able to assist in making their drinks as I was under strict instructions, and who was I to disagree with a manager? Berate me in front of my principal for not communicating with you about your child's grades? Enjoy embarrassing yourself. Lurker here, All of your amazing stories reminded me of my own. So, flashback to when my first year of teaching, I was a 21-year-old middle school teacher, fresh out of college and extremely green. I was admittedly shaky when it came to parent communication. It is quite intimidating to speak to a parent as an equal when you're less than 10 years older than their children. Many of them are old enough to be my parent, which made things awkward for me. Enter Evil Mom, EM. Her daughter, Lazy Diva, LD, did absolutely nothing in my class except stir up drama, be extremely rude and obnoxious, and generally anything but her work. Now, students' grades are easily accessible at all times through an online parent portal, so I have always been of the opinion that parents should never be surprised by grades at the end of the quarter. So, the end of the second quarter is drawing to an end, and I get an abrasive email from EM demanding a parent-teacher conference with an administrator present. Of course, teachers are instructed to meet with a parent anytime they want a conference. One of my assistant principals sat in on the meeting. From the moment EM sat across from me, I knew where LD got her attitude. EM was belligerent, accusing, and rude. She began to angrily accuse me of causing her daughter to fail. Somehow my fault? Basically, I should have done everything under the sun to make sure she didn't fail. I should have contacted her early. I should have sent home extra copies. I should have checked LD's agenda, etc. While I admittedly should have called her earlier, her chewing me out in front of my boss was the most embarrassing moment of my career. My assistant principal worked out a compromise that went like this. Since EM didn't want a lot of phone calls, apparently a busy person, it was agreed that I would write a note to EM in LD's agenda every Friday about her grade and her missing work. Embarrassed and chastised, I could barely look my boss in the eye. I resolved that I would comply to the fullest, so much so that it would be annoying. I would be above reproach, so that she could never berate me like that again. However, I could never have imagined the incredible events that followed. In the weeks that followed, I only wrote an LD's agenda, but I printed off lists of her missing assignments, progress reports, and letters home, stapled them to her agenda. I did this every week without fail, and LD's behavior did not change. By the end of the third quarter, she was missing 8 assignments and was failing my class yet again. Lo and behold, I get an email from EM demanding a parent-teacher conference with a principal present. She arrives and starts in on me again about how I'm unprofessional and how I'm not supporting her daughter and how I yet again failed to notify her that her daughter was failing. Then the realization struck me. She had never looked at the agenda. I painstakingly stapled progress reports, letters, and missing work into her agenda for nearly 3 months, and she never once checked? A grin broke across my face. Me, can we look at LD's agenda? There's something I think you should see. EM leaves the room and comes back with LD's agenda. Me begins flipping through the agenda, showing her every single page that I wrote on or stapled. Me. Now, if you'll notice, I have written in LD's agenda and stapled progress reports, letters to you, and lists of missing work into her agenda every single week since we last spoke. And per our agreement, are you telling me that you didn't check her agenda once? EM. Blood drains from her face as she realizes her credibility with my principal is now gone. Me. At this point in the quarter, it's too late for your child to turn in makeup work. Please sure to be checking your child's agenda every Friday for an update concerning her progress. In order for your child to be successful, you need to be involved. Do you have any questions? EM, stammering with excuses and apologizes for not checking. By this point, I could tell my principal was stifling laughter. So, I knew I had won. EM left very quickly, and I never received one of those harsh emails again. LD's behavior didn't improve at all, but I rode the satisfaction of that W all the way through to summer. We don't have the right screws or nails for the work we're doing, but you still want us to keep working? Sure, boss. This was maybe 7 years ago when I first started working as a carpenter in a fairly large city doing commercial work. This was maybe my second job, so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was trying my best. We were doing all types of random stuff: drywall, framing, doors, trim work, crown molding, and it was a lot all at once, but I was trying. My boss at the time would constantly be an a-hole to me every chance he got to show me up. Not even a, hey man, this is how you should do this for X, Y, and Z reason. It was always sort of a, hey idiot, stop screwing around. Like I said, I was new and figured, oh, that's just how construction workers are. So I brushed it off and tried to keep going. It got to the point where my boss flipped out at me one day for forgetting to put someone else's nail gun away. Because I was an apprentice, I was at fault because I wasn't aware there was a gun out that wasn't put away the night before. My boss flipped out and threatened to fire me, when one of the other journeymen stepped up and started yelling back, "Fire me, dude, it was my gun. This guy is trying." I'll always remember that. But it was sort of us versus him. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and we're putting up crown molding. And first, we were putting up pieces of 1x3 on the wall at the height of the bottom of the crown molding, so the crown would have a way better install, which is also known as a nailer. Anyway, we were to glue the backs, and we were using finish nails at the angle to track, temporarily hold the boards to the wall while the glue dried. It was madness in there that day. Everyone was running around like an a-hole, and we started to run out of nails. We only had much shorter nails that barely even went through the wood, enough to poke into the wall behind it. Half the time our nailer boards were falling off the wall. We all told our boss this, and he said, "It's fine, just keep going." Okay, boss. We're firing in as many nails as we can to try and get these boards to stick. We didn't even have screws long enough to use. Rather than us doing something else, or him making a run to Home Depot, we kept going. Other trades were trying to get their work done too. The wallpaper guys had to pull out the air conditioner / heater combos away from the wall so they can get their paper behind it somewhat while we were trying to install our boards. The danger in this is that all of the air conditioners are plumbed together for their coolant, using a mix of 50-50 water and alcohol. I told my boss that we should make a couple of little boxes that will go over these flexible plumbing lines behind the air conditioners so they don't break. He said it would take too much time. The nails we were using have worked to make these little boxes, and we could have used scrap pieces of wood, but if he saw us using them, he would have flipped on us for wasting time. Well, the inevitable happened. One of our nailer pieces fell straight down the wall and hit one of these coolant lines. 15,000 gallons of coolant shot straight out of the wall, blasted the air conditioner out of the way, and was hitting the wall about 15 feet away. The system has a pump to continuously force the coolant mix through the whole building's coolant system, so it was very pressurized. It poured for about 20 minutes straight. All of the air conditioners lost their coolant, so there was no air conditioners working for any of the rooms in the hotel. We only renovated 2 floors at the time, so every other floor had occupants in it. This was also in the middle of the summer. All of that water flooded down through the lower floors, which just happened to be on top of the newly finished banquet hall that we had just completed. Nearly all of the ceiling tiles that we had just installed in that 200 by 100 room had been soaked. The patterned, ritzy carpet was soaked in alcohol and water. 10 rooms below the room had been soaked. It was an effing nightmare. All because my boss wanted us to keep going instead of getting us the right supplies. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing. Maybe leave it a like and give it a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.